I stood outside the grand ballroom of the Riverside estate, listening to the muffled sounds of laughter and music seeping through the ornate doors. 250 guests. My sister had invited 250 people to her wedding reception. Everyone except me. The invitation had arrived 6 weeks earlier, elegant cream cardstock with gold embossing. I had opened it with excitement, already planning what I would wear, what gift I would give. Then I read it. Adults only reception to follow. When I called to ask if that meant what I thought it meant, Valerie had been crystal clear. The venue is small, Christina. We can only accommodate close friends and family. I am family, I had said, keeping my voice steady. I am your sister. I know, but Brandon has a huge extended family. His parents are paying for most of the wedding, so they get final say on the guest list. I am sorry. I had hung up before she could hear my voice crack. 28 years of being second best. 28 years of being the responsible one while she played the golden child. And this was how it ended. Not invited to my own sister's wedding reception. But I went to the ceremony anyway. I sat in the back row of the church, watching her glide down the aisle in a dress that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. She looked beautiful. She always did. That was part of her power. When the ceremony ended, I tried to catch her eye as she walked back down the aisle, her arm linked through Brandon's. She saw me. I knew she did. But she turned her head, whispered something to her new husband, and kept walking. Now I stood outside the reception venue, debating whether to leave or confront her. The rational part of my brain told me to go home, to let it go, to be the bigger person. But 28 years of swallowing my pride had left me with nothing but an empty stomach and a burning rage. The door opened, and a couple stepped out, laughing about something. In that brief moment, I saw inside. Crystal chandeliers, white roses everywhere, a massive dance floor packed with people. And there, at the center of it all, was Valerie, spinning in Brandon's arms, looking like a princess in a fairy tale. My fairy tale, the one I had paid for. Most people did not know that I owned the house where Valerie and Brandon lived. It had been my grandmother's property, left to me when she passed away 3 years ago. Valerie had been going through a rough patch at the time, freshly dumped by her previous boyfriend, struggling to find work. I offered her the place rent-free, just until she got back on her feet. That was 3 years ago. She never got back on her feet. Instead, she met Brandon, moved him in without asking, and together they treated my property like their personal estate. I never pushed. I never demanded rent. I told myself I was being generous. That family helped family. But standing outside that ballroom, listening to her celebration while being excluded from it, something shifted inside me. Generosity had limits. Family loyalty had boundaries. And I had just discovered exactly where mine ended. I pulled out my phone and opened my email. My property lawyer, Jerome, had sent me documents months ago when I first mentioned that Valerie and Brandon might need to start paying rent. I had never followed through, never wanted to be the bad guy, never wanted to be the sister who kicked her family out. But I was not in the family anymore, was I? The guest list had made that abundantly clear. I scrolled through until I found the template for a formal eviction notice. In our state, I only needed to give 10 days' notice if the occupants were not paying rent. 10 days. I read through the document carefully, then began filling in the details. A burst of applause erupted from inside the ballroom. Someone was making a toast. Probably Brandon's father, talking about how wonderful their families would be together now. How they were all one big happy family. I hit send on the email to Jerome, asking him to prepare the official notice for delivery tomorrow morning. Then I turned and walked back to my car. The night air was cool against my skin, and I realized I was shaking. Not from cold, but from the weight of what I had just done. This was not who I was. I did not hurt people. I did not take revenge. I fixed problems. I smoothed things over. I made peace. but peace required two sides willing to meet in the middle. And Valerie had made it clear which side I was on. I sat in my car for a long moment, hands gripping the steering wheel, staring at the lit windows of the ballroom. Music drifted out, something upbeat and joyful. They would dance until midnight, probably. Eat expensive catered food. Drink premium champagne. Take photos they would treasure forever. And in 10 days, when they returned from their honeymoon in Cancun, they would find an eviction notice taped to the door of the house they thought was theirs. The house that had never been theirs. The house I had foolishly let them believe they could keep forever. I started the engine and drove home, that same sick, triumphant feeling churning in my stomach. This was not over. This was just beginning. The next morning arrived with unexpected clarity. I woke up at 6, made coffee, and sat at my kitchen table reviewing the property documents Jerome had sent over. Everything was in order. The house was solely in my name. Valerie and Brandon had never signed a lease. They were legally classified as guests, which meant I could remove them with minimal notice. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. Valerie's wedding was beautiful. Sorry you couldn't make the reception. She said space was limited. I stared at those words. Space was limited, as if the ballroom had not been massive, as if 250 people had somehow filled every possible seat. My mother knew the truth. She just did not want to acknowledge it. I typed back, yes, it looked lovely. Nothing more, no accusation, no hurt. Just a simple acknowledgement that left room for nothing else. Another text came through, this time from Valerie herself. Thanks for coming to the ceremony. I know the reception thing was awkward. Maybe we can have lunch when I get back from the honeymoon. Lunch. She wanted to smooth it over with lunch. I did not respond. Instead, I forwarded the message to Jerome along with a note. Please proceed with the eviction notice as planned. Deliver it today. He called me 10 minutes later. Christina, are you sure about this? Family disputes can get messy. I am sure. Once I deliver this notice, there is no taking it back without looking weak. They will have 10 days to vacate. If they refuse, we will have to file for formal eviction through the courts. They will not refuse, I said. They will be on their honeymoon. By the time they get back, they will have 3 days left to pack and leave. Jerome was quiet for a moment. That is cold. That is legal. Both things can be true. He sighed. I will have it delivered by 2 p.m. today. They will likely see it when they get home from the airport tomorrow night. Actually, they would not be home until the following week. The wedding had been on Saturday. They were flying out Sunday morning. But I did not correct him. Let him think whatever timeline made sense. After we hung up, I sat in the silence of my apartment and tried to feel something other than justified. Tried to find the guilt I expected to feel. But it did not come. Instead, I felt a strange sense of calm. My phone rang. My mother this time. Christina, what is this I hear about an eviction notice? News traveled fast in our family. How did you already hear about that? Valerie called me from the airport. She stopped by the house to grab their luggage and found a notice taped to the door. She is devastated. She should have thought about that before excluding me from her reception. This is not about a party, my mother said, her voice sharp. This is about you being petty and vindictive. No, this is about me reclaiming my property that Valerie has been using rent-free for 3 years. This is about me setting boundaries that should have existed from the beginning. She is your sister. Then she should have saved me a seat. My mother made a disgusted sound. You are willing to destroy your relationship over a wedding reception? I am willing to stop being taken advantage of. There is a difference. Your grandmother would be ashamed of you. That one stung, but I kept my voice level. Grandmother left that house to me, not Valerie. She made that choice for a reason. My mother hung up without another word. I set the phone down and stared at my hands. They were steady. My heart was beating normally. I felt no panic, no regret. Just a quiet certainty that I was finally doing what I should have done years ago. The rest of the day passed in a strange blur. I went to work at the architectural firm where I had spent the last 8 years designing commercial buildings. My boss, Patricia, noticed my distraction during the team meeting. "You okay?" she asked after everyone else had filed out. "Family drama," I said. She nodded knowingly. Patricia was in her 50s, divorced twice, with 3 adult children who barely spoke to her. "Family is the hardest thing we do," she said, "because we love them even when they hurt us." "What if you stop loving them?" I asked. She looked at me for a long moment. "Then you are free." I thought about that word. Free. Was that what this felt like? This lightness? This absence of obligation? That evening I drove past the house. My house. The one Valerie had been living in like it was her own. It was a beautiful craftsman-style home in a tree-lined neighborhood, the kind of place people saved their whole lives to own. I had inherited it by chance, by being the oldest granddaughter, by being present when my grandmother rewrote her will during her final months. Valerie had contested it initially, of course, claimed that grandmother had been confused, that the house should be split between us. But the will was airtight, witnessed by 2 lawyers. The house was mine. And I had let her live there anyway. Because family helped family. Because I did not want to be cruel. Because some part of me had always felt guilty for being the favorite, for being the responsible one, for getting the inheritance. But guilt was not a good enough reason to sacrifice myself anymore. I parked across the street and looked at the dark windows. The eviction notice was still taped to the front door, white paper stark against the dark wood. In 7 days, this house would be mine again, truly mine. And Valerie would finally understand what it felt like to lose something she thought she deserved. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Valerie. "Please call me. We need to talk about this." I deleted it without responding and drove home. The week of their honeymoon passed slowly. I threw myself into work, spending long hours at the firm redesigning a municipal library project that had been rejected twice by the city council. The precision required was soothing. Every line had to be perfect, every measurement exact. There was no room for emotion in architecture, only logic and structure. Patricia stopped by my desk on Wednesday afternoon. "You have been here until 8 p.m. every night this week. What are you avoiding?" "Nothing," I said. "Just focused on getting this right." She sat down in the empty chair beside my desk. "I have been doing this job for 27 years. I know the difference between dedication and distraction." I saved my work and turned to face her. "My sister is coming back from her honeymoon in 3 days. When she does, she will find out she has to move out of the house I own, the house she has been living in rent-free for 3 years. Patricia whistled low. What did she do? Did not invite me to her wedding reception. That is it? That is enough. Patricia leaned back in her chair, studying me. You know what I learned from my divorces? That sometimes the cruelest thing you can do is exactly what you are legally entitled to do. Are you saying I should not evict her? I am saying that legal and right are not always the same thing. But I am also saying that I do not know your history with your sister. Maybe this is exactly what she needs. After she left, I sat alone in my office, looking out at the city lights below. Seattle was beautiful at night, all those windows glowing like stars. Each one represented someone living their life, making their choices, dealing with their own complicated relationships. My phone rang. An unknown number. I almost did not answer, but something made me pick up. Christina? A male voice. Brandon. How did you get this number? From your mother. Listen, I know you are angry about the reception, but kicking us out is extreme. Valerie is my wife now. We are building a life together. You cannot just destroy that because your feelings were hurt. Actually, I can. It is my property. We have been living there for 3 years. That has to count for something legally. It counts for nothing. You never signed a lease. You never paid rent. You are guests who overstayed their welcome. His voice hardened. You are making a huge mistake. Valerie has friends, connections, people who can make life very difficult for you. Is that a threat? It is reality. You are burning a bridge you cannot rebuild. Good. I do not want to rebuild it. I hung up and blocked the number. That night, I barely slept. Not from anxiety, but from a strange kind of anticipation. The eviction notice gave them 10 days from delivery. Tomorrow would be day 7. They would be back on day 8. That gave them 2 days to pack up 3 years of their lives and find somewhere new to live. It should have felt cruel. Instead, it felt like justice. Thursday morning brought rain, the kind of persistent Seattle drizzle that seeped into everything. I worked from home, watching the clock, knowing that Valerie and Brandon were somewhere over the Pacific Ocean right now, flying back to their new reality. My mother called again. I am not changing my mind, I said, before she could speak. I am not calling to change your mind. I am calling to tell you that your father and I will not be choosing sides in this. There are no sides. There is just me enforcing my legal rights. You are destroying your relationship with your sister over pride. No, Mother. She destroyed our relationship when she looked me in the eye and told me there was no room for me at her reception. When she chose 250 acquaintances over her only sister. This is just me accepting that reality. She made a mistake. She made a choice. And now I am making mine. After I hung up, I opened my laptop and started browsing rental listings. Not for me, for Valerie. I was not heartless. I did not want her homeless. I just wanted her out of my house. I found 3 possibilities in her price range, assuming Brandon's job at the pharmaceutical company paid decently. I forwarded them to her email with a simple message. You have 2 days. Here are some options. She responded within an hour. I cannot believe you are doing this to me. I wrote back. I cannot believe you did not save me a seat. No response after that. Friday passed in a fog of work and waiting. I knew they would be landing around 6 p.m. I knew they would drive home tired and jet-lagged. I knew they would walk into that house and realize the countdown was almost over. Part of me wanted to be there to see their faces. Part of me never wanted to see them again. At 7 p.m., my phone exploded with messages. Valerie. We just got home. We need more time. Valerie. 2 days is not enough to find a place and move everything. Valerie. Please be reasonable. Brandon. We can take you to court for this. Brandon. Unlawful eviction is a crime. Valerie. I am begging you, please. I responded to none of them. Instead, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on my balcony, looking out at the city. Somewhere out there, Valerie was panicking. Somewhere out there, Brandon was angry. Somewhere out there, my mother was probably telling everyone what a terrible daughter I was. And somewhere inside me, a small voice whispered that I had gone too far, that family was supposed to forgive, that love was supposed to be unconditional. But I silenced that voice with a simple truth. Love should never be one-sided, and ours had been one-sided for far too long. 2 more days. Then the house would be mine again. 2 more days. Then I would finally be free. Saturday morning arrived with unexpected silence. No calls, no texts, no desperate pleas from Valerie or threats from Brandon. Just quiet. I told myself this was good. They had accepted reality and were handling it like adults. But something about the silence felt wrong, like the pause before a storm. I went for a run through my neighborhood, trying to clear my head. The streets were empty except for a few dog walkers and one elderly man watering his garden. Normal. Saturday morning activities for normal people living normal lives. I was not normal anymore. I had become someone who evicted her sister. Someone who chose revenge over reconciliation. And the strangest part was that I still felt no regret. When I got back to my apartment, there was a manila envelope taped to my door. No return address. I opened it carefully. Inside were photos, dozens of them. Pictures of me at work, at the grocery store, walking to my car. Surveillance photos. Someone had been following me. My hand shook as I flipped through them. Some were from months ago, judging by the seasonal clothes I wore. Others were recent. One from yesterday showed me leaving the office at 8 p.m., briefcase in hand, face exhausted. At the bottom of the stack was a note in handwriting I did not recognize. Back off, or everyone sees these, including your boss, including your clients. We have a whole story ready about your unstable behavior. I sat down hard on my couch, my heart hammering. This was Brandon's doing. It had to be. Valerie would never go this far. Would she? I called Jerome immediately. They are threatening you? His voice was sharp. That is harassment, possibly blackmail. We need to document everything. What can they possibly claim in these photos? I am just living my life. Context does not matter if they spin it right. They could claim you have been stalking them, that you are obsessed with destroying their marriage, that you are mentally unstable. With the right narrative, these innocent photos become evidence of something sinister. My stomach turned. So what do I do? Nothing. You stay the course. The eviction stands. If they want to play games, we have the law on our side. What they are doing right now is actually illegal. Taking photos of someone over an extended period without their knowledge, using those photos to threaten them, that is criminal behavior. After I hung up, I studied the photos again. Whoever took them had been thorough. They knew my routines, my schedule, my habits. This was not a casual surveillance. This was planned. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. The photos are just the beginning. Drop the eviction, or things get worse. I screenshotted it and sent it to Jerome, then blocked the number. Another text came through from a different number. Your coworkers would be interested to know about your family problems. Might affect your judgment on projects. Might make clients nervous. I blocked that one too. 3 more texts came in rapid succession, each from a different number, each escalating the threats. By the time I finished blocking them all, my hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. This was not Valerie. She was dramatic, yes. Self-centered, absolutely. But this kind of calculated harassment? This was Brandon, and he was playing a game I was not prepared for. I spent the rest of Saturday documenting everything. I made copies of the photos, saved all the text messages, wrote down every detail I could remember about the past week. Jerome said we needed evidence, so I would give him evidence. Sunday morning brought a new development. I woke up to find my apartment building's front door covered in flyers. My face was on every single one. Beware. Dangerous neighbor. The headline read. Below was a distorted photo of me looking angry, taken from some unknown moment, edited to make me look unstable. The text claimed I was undergoing a mental health crisis, that I had violently evicted my sister, that residents should keep their distance. I tore them all down, my face burning with humiliation. How many of my neighbors had seen these? How many believed them? Mrs. Kowalski from 4B stopped me in the lobby. Christina, dear, is everything all right? I saw those awful papers. It is a misunderstanding, I managed. A family dispute that someone is taking too far. She patted my arm sympathetically. Family can be cruel sometimes. My sister did not speak to me for 15 years over a borrowed dress. Can you imagine? I could imagine. I could imagine all too well. At work Monday morning, I found out that someone had sent similar flyers to my office. Patricia called me into her office before I even sat down at my desk. "What the hell is this?" She held up one of the flyers. "My sister's new husband is trying to intimidate me into dropping an eviction." An eviction? I explained the whole situation. The wedding, the reception, the house, the notice. Patricia listened without interrupting, her expression unreadable. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "This Brandon person, what does he do for work?" "He is a sales director at Harrison Pharmaceuticals." Harrison. She wrote it down. "And he thinks threatening you will make you back down?" "Apparently." Patricia leaned back in her chair. "Here is what we are going to do. First, you are going to file a police report about the harassment. Second, you are going to continue with the eviction exactly as planned. Third, if anyone from Harrison Pharmaceuticals contacts this firm with concerns about your mental state or work performance, they will be speaking to our legal department about defamation. You believe me? Christina, I have watched you work for 8 years. I have seen you handle impossible clients, impossible deadlines, and impossible projects without ever losing your composure. If you say your sister's husband is harassing you, I believe you, and I do not tolerate anyone threatening my employees." I felt tears prick my eyes. "Thank you." "Do not thank me yet. This is going to get worse before it gets better. People like Brandon do not stop until they are forced to stop. So we are going to force him." I left her office feeling lighter than I had in days. I was not alone in this. I had allies. But when I checked my phone, there were 17 missed calls from my mother and a voicemail that made my blood run cold. "Christina, Valerie is in the hospital. She collapsed this morning from stress. The doctors say it is your fault, that the pressure of the eviction caused this. I hope you are satisfied. I hope destroying your sister was worth it." I stood in the middle of the hallway, people flowing around me, and felt the world tilt sideways. What had I done? I drove to the hospital in a daze, my mother's words echoing in my head. Valerie was in the hospital. Because of me. Because of the eviction. Because I had chosen revenge over mercy. The guilt I had been waiting for finally arrived, crashing over me like a wave. What if something was seriously wrong? What if she lost the baby? I did not even know if she was pregnant, but newlyweds often were. What if my actions had ruined more than just her housing situation? I found my mother in the waiting room, her face drawn and pale. "Where is she?" I asked. My mother looked at me with cold eyes. "You should not be here." "She is my sister." "You lost the right to call her that when you kicked her out of her home." "It was my home. Not anymore." My mother's voice was venomous. "You signed it over to her this morning, or did you forget?" My blood went cold. "What are you talking about?" "The ownership transfer documents. You signed them last week. Jerome processed them yesterday. The house is legally Valerie's now." "I never signed anything." My mother pulled out her phone and showed me a scanned document. It was a property transfer form, dated 6 days ago, with my signature at the bottom. My perfect signature. The one I had practiced since college to make it look professional. "This is fake," I said. "I never signed this." "Jerome certified it. He was the witness." "Are you calling your own lawyer a liar?" I stared at the document, my mind racing. This could not be real. Jerome would never betray me like this. Unless... "Where did you get this?" I asked. "Brandon emailed it to me this morning. Said you had a change of heart, that you realized how wrong you were." "Brandon sent it to you?" "Yes, about an hour before Valerie collapsed." I pulled out my phone and called Jerome. It went straight to voicemail. I tried again. Same result. Something was very wrong. I need to see Valerie, I said. Absolutely not. Mother, please. Something is not right here. Before she could respond, Brandon emerged from the elevator. He saw me and his expression hardened. What are you doing here? I came to see my sister. You are not wanted here. You have done enough damage. I stepped toward him, keeping my voice low. Did you forge a property transfer document? He smiled. Actually smiled. I have no idea what you are talking about. You sent my mother a fake ownership transfer. You made it look like I signed my house over to Valerie. Why would I need to forge anything? You already gave her the house. Jerome can confirm that. Jerome is not answering his phone. Maybe he is busy. Maybe he is tired of dealing with your unstable behavior. That word again. Unstable. He was building a narrative, piece by piece, and I was watching it happen in real time. You are trying to gaslight me, I said. I am trying to protect my wife from her abusive sister. I never abused her. You emotionally manipulated her for years, made her feel guilty for living in your house. Then you cruelly evicted her right after her wedding. That is abuse. My mother was listening to every word, her expression shifting from anger to uncertainty. None of that is true, I said. I let her live there rent-free. I supported her when she had nothing. I only evicted her after she excluded me from her own wedding reception. Because we did not have space, Brandon said smoothly. We explained that, but you took it as a personal attack and decided to destroy her life over it. There were 250 people at that reception. At a venue that holds 250, we did not have room for anyone else. That is a lie. Is it? Do you have proof? Did you go inside and count the chairs? I opened my mouth and closed it again. He was right. I had no proof. I had only seen through an open door for a brief moment. I had assumed there was room, but I had not verified it. Brandon pressed his advantage. You have been harassing us for days. Threatening texts, stalking us, now forging documents and claiming we did it. Do you understand how this looks? I have screenshots of your threats. From unknown numbers. Anyone could have sent those. You could have sent them to yourself to build your case. The photos. Someone took surveillance photos of me. Photos we never saw. Photos you claim exist but have not shown to anyone except your lawyer, who you now claim is working against you. Do you hear yourself? Do you hear how paranoid you sound? My mother stood up. Christina, maybe you should go home. Get some rest. I am not crazy, I said, but my voice sounded desperate even to my own ears. No one is saying you are crazy, Brandon said gently. We are saying you are under stress, that you made some poor choices and now you are trying to justify them by creating conspiracy theories. A doctor came out then, looking tired. Family of Valerie? Brandon stepped forward. That is my wife. How is she? She is stable. It was a panic attack, not a cardiac event. We have given her medication to help her relax. She can go home soon. Relief washed over me, followed immediately by confusion. A panic attack? My mother had made it sound like she was dying. Can I see her? I asked. The doctor looked at Brandon, who shook his head. She does not want to see her sister right now. I am afraid we need to respect the patient's wishes, the doctor said. Perhaps give her some space and time. I looked at my mother, at Brandon, at the doctor. They all saw the same thing, an unstable woman who had gone too far and could not admit she was wrong. Brandon had won. He had taken my righteous anger and twisted it into something ugly. He had made me the villain in a story where I had been the victim. I did not sign over that house, I said one more time. My mother touched my arm. Christina, please. Go home. We can talk about this later when everyone is calmer. I left the hospital feeling like I was walking through water, Everything was distorted, wrong, surreal. How had this happened? How had I gone from enforcing my rights to being the bad guy? When I got to my car, I found another note tucked under the windshield wiper. Drop everything, and we forget this ever happened. Keep pushing, and you lose everything. I crumpled it in my fist and got in the car. They wanted me to give up. They wanted me to accept defeat and slink away quietly. But they had made one critical mistake. They had assumed I would break. I drove straight to the police station and filed a formal harassment complaint. The police took my statement with professional detachment. Officer Williams, a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes, listened as I explained everything. The wedding, the eviction, the threats, the photos, the forged documents. "Do you still have the photos?" she asked. I pulled them from my bag. She studied each one carefully. "These are definitely surveillance-style photos, taken over multiple weeks. That establishes a pattern." She made notes. "And the texts?" I showed her the screenshots. She copied down the phone numbers, though we both knew they were probably burner phones. "The property transfer document. Do you have a copy?" My mother showed it to me on her phone. She said Brandon emailed it to her. "We will need to see the original file. If it is a forgery, there will be digital evidence, metadata, editing traces, things like that." She looked up at me. "But I have to ask, is there any possibility you signed something while distracted? Sometimes people sign documents without fully reading them. No, I would never sign away property without reviewing every word. And your lawyer, Jerome, you trust him?" I hesitated. Did I? Before this week, I would have said yes without question. Now I was not sure of anything. "I need to talk to him," I said. Officer Williams handed me her card. "We will investigate the harassment claims. In the meantime, document everything. Every contact, every threat, every incident. If this escalates, we need a solid paper trail." I left the police station feeling slightly more in control. At least someone was taking me seriously. At least someone believed me. I tried Jerome again. This time he answered. "Christina, I have been meaning to call you. What the hell is going on? Brandon is claiming I signed over the house to Valerie." Silence, long and heavy. "Jerome? I need to see you in person. Can you come to my office? Just tell me if you betrayed me. It is not that simple." My heart sank. "What did you do?" "Come to my office, please." I drove there in a fog of dread. Jerome's firm was in a sleek downtown building, all glass and steel. I had always felt safe here. Now I felt like I was walking into a trap. His secretary waved me through immediately. Jerome was waiting in his office, looking haggard. "Before you say anything," he started, "I want you to know I thought I was doing the right thing." "What did you do?" He pulled out a file and slid it across his desk. Inside was a property transfer document. My signature was at the bottom. It looked exactly like my signature. "This is a forgery," I said. "I know." I looked up sharply. "You know?" I realized it this morning when I reviewed the file. The signature looks perfect, but the document itself has inconsistencies. The notary seal is fake. The date does not match our records. Someone went to a lot of trouble to make this look legitimate. "Who?" "I do not know for certain, but Brandon came to my office last Tuesday. Said you had sent him to pick up some documents. I was with another client, so my secretary gave him access to the file room. He was alone for about 15 minutes. And you are just telling me this now?" "I did not know anything was wrong until I saw the transfer document this morning. Brandon sent it to your mother directly, not through our firm. That was the first red flag. When I examined it closely, I saw the problems. I wanted to scream at him, to rage about incompetence and negligence. But what good would it do?" "Can we prove it is fake?" I asked. "Absolutely. I have already filed a complaint with the State Bar Association about the forged notary seal. That is a serious crime. I also contacted the police with my statement. But in the meantime, everyone thinks I am the unstable one. Everyone thinks I signed over the house, and now I am having second thoughts. Jerome nodded grimly. Brandon is smarter than I gave him credit for. He created a narrative where you look irrational, and he looks like the victim protecting his wife. So what do? You continue with the eviction as planned. They have until tomorrow evening to vacate. If they do not leave, we file for formal eviction through the courts, and at that point, all of this documentation becomes public record. The harassment, the forged documents, all of it. Will that work? It will work, because the truth is on our side. It might take time, it might be messy, but the law is clear. The house is yours. The eviction is legal. Everything Brandon has done is illegal. I left Jerome's office feeling slightly better. At least I had one person on my side who understood what was happening. But when I got home, I found my apartment had been broken into. Nothing was missing. Instead, things had been moved. My laptop was open on my desk, showing my email. My files had been rifled through. My personal photos were spread across my bed. Someone had been here. Someone had gone through my life looking for ammunition. I called the police. Officer Williams came herself this time. "No forced entry?" she asked, examining my door. "I lock it every time." "So either they picked the lock or they have a key." "No one has a key except the building super." She walked through the apartment taking photos of everything. "This is escalation. They are not just threatening you anymore. They are violating your personal space. Can you arrest them?" "Not without proof. But this, combined with everything else, is building a strong case for a restraining order. Maybe criminal charges if we can tie it directly to them." After she left, I sat in my apartment and realized I did not feel safe anymore. My home had been invaded, my privacy shattered, all because I had dared to enforce my property rights. My phone rang. Valerie. I almost did not answer, but something made me pick up. "Christina." Her voice was small. "I need to tell you something." "I am listening." "Brandon is not who I thought he was. He has been planning this since before the wedding. He found out about the house, about grandmother's will, about everything. He targeted me to get access to it." My breath caught. "What are you saying?" "I am saying I am sorry. I am saying I was too blind to see what he was doing. And I am saying you need to be very careful, because he is not done yet." "Where are you now?" "At the house. He does not know I am calling you. Christina, he has a gun. I found it in his drawer. I do not know what he is planning, but I am scared. Get out of there, right now. I cannot. He took my car keys. He has been monitoring my phone. This is the only chance I had to call you. I am calling the police. No. If the police show up, he will know I warned you. Just please, do not come to the house tomorrow. Whatever you do, do not come here." The line went dead. I sat frozen, Valerie's warning echoing in my mind. Brandon had a gun. He was planning something. And the eviction deadline was tomorrow. I called Officer Williams immediately and told her everything. "We need to take this seriously," she said. "I am going to request a welfare check on your sister. If she is being held against her will, we can intervene. She said not to send police. She also said he has a weapon, and she is scared. That supersedes her request. Stay away from that house. Do you understand me? Whatever happens tomorrow, you do not go there." I promised I would not. But as I hung up, I knew that was a lie. Valerie was my sister. Whatever had happened between us, I could not leave her in danger. I spent the night planning. If Brandon was expecting me to show up tomorrow for the eviction, I would surprise him by showing up tonight. If he thought I would come alone, I would bring backup. If he thought he could intimidate me into submission, He was about to learn otherwise. At 2 a.m., I drove to the house. I parked 2 blocks away and approached on foot, my phone ready to call 911 at the first sign of trouble. The house was dark except for one light in the upstairs bedroom. I stood in the shadows across the street, watching. After 20 minutes, a figure appeared in the window. Brandon, pacing back and forth, phone pressed to his ear. He looked agitated, angry. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "I know you are outside. Come in alone or Valerie gets hurt." My blood turned to ice. He was watching me. How? Another text. "Front door is unlocked. You have 2 minutes." I looked around frantically, trying to spot where he was watching from. Security cameras? Was he tracking my phone? I typed back, "Let me talk to Valerie first." 1 minute 30 seconds. I started walking toward the house, my heart hammering. This was stupid. This was exactly what Officer Williams had warned me not to do. But what choice did I have? The front door opened before I reached it. Brandon stood in the doorway, silhouetted by the hall light behind him. "Smart choice," he said. "Where is Valerie?" "Upstairs, resting. She has been under a lot of stress lately." I stepped inside, and he closed the door behind me. The house looked different. Boxes were stacked everywhere, as if they had actually started packing. But something felt staged about it. "Why are you doing this?" I asked. Brandon smiled. "Because you made it personal when you kicked us out of our home. It was never your home. It was supposed to be. Your grandmother promised Valerie she would inherit it. Did she tell you that? Those last few months, when you were busy with work, Valerie was there every day. Your grandmother told her the house would be hers. That is not what the will said. Because you manipulated her. You were always the favorite. Always the responsible one. You poisoned her against Valerie. I did nothing of the sort. Doesn't matter now. The house is about to be mine anyway." I frowned. "The forged document is not going to hold up in court." "Who said anything about courts?" He pulled out a gun from his waistband. "This is simpler." I backed up a step, my mind racing. "You are going to shoot me and think you will get away with it?" "I am going to make it look like you broke in, distraught over the eviction, and I defended my home. Valerie will back me up. She always does. Valerie called to warn me about you." His expression flickered. "She told you that?" "She said you targeted her to get the house, that you have been planning this from the beginning. She is confused. The stress has been affecting her judgment." Footsteps on the stairs behind him. Valerie appeared, her face pale but determined. "I am not confused," she said, "and I am not backing you up anymore." Brandon spun to face her, the gun still in his hand. "Val, go back upstairs." "No." She came down the last few steps and stood beside me. "This is over, Brandon. I called the police before Christina got here. They are on their way." "You did what?" "I told them everything. About the forged documents, the harassment, the threats. About how you manipulated me into cutting Christina out of the reception so you could drive a wedge between us. About how you planned to force her into signing over the house by making her look unstable." Brandon's face went red. "You stupid girl. Do you know what you have done? I stopped you from killing my sister." He raised the gun, pointing it at Valerie now instead of me. "Neither of you are leaving this house." "Then you will have to shoot us both," Valerie said, "because I am not playing along anymore." In the distance, sirens began to wail. Brandon looked toward the door, then back at us. His hand shook. "Put the gun down," I said quietly. "It is over. The police are coming. You have already lost." For a moment, I thought he might actually shoot us. His finger tightened on the trigger, his jaw clenched. Then he threw the gun on the floor and ran for the back door. He did not make it far. The police were already surrounding the house. I heard shouting, then the sound of someone being tackled, handcuffs clicking into place. Valerie collapsed into my arms, sobbing. "I am sorry," she whispered. "I am so sorry." The police took our statements separately. Officer Williams sat with me in the living room, her recorder between us on the coffee table. "You are lucky to be alive," she said. "I know. You should not have come here tonight. I know that too." She studied me for a long moment. "Your sister's testimony is going to be crucial. She is willing to testify about everything, the manipulation, the planning, all of it." She said she would. "Good, because Brandon is claiming self-defense. Says you broke in, threatened him, and he was protecting his wife." I almost laughed. Of course he is. But we have the gun. We have the forged documents. We have the harassment evidence you provided. And now we have Valerie's testimony that he planned all of this. He is looking at multiple felony charges. After the police left, Valerie and I sat in the kitchen of the house that had caused so much pain. The house my grandmother had left me. The house that had nearly destroyed both of us. "I need to explain about the wedding," Valerie said finally. "You do not have to." "I do. Brandon convinced me that you were jealous of my happiness. That you had always been jealous of me. He said the only way to start our marriage right was to set boundaries, to show you that you could not control my life anymore. I never tried to control your life. I know. I see that now. But he was so convincing. He would show me old messages from you, taken out of context, and twist them into proof that you were manipulative. He made me believe I was the victim of your generosity, that you held the house over my head. I never mentioned the house. Not once in 3 years. I know. That was what made his lie so effective. He said you were doing it subtly, making me feel indebted, keeping me dependent. And I believed him because it fit the narrative I wanted to believe. Why? She looked at me with tears in her eyes. Because it was easier than admitting I was the problem. Easier than acknowledging that I had been taking advantage of you for years. That you had every right to be angry with me even before the wedding. Val. No, let me finish. I have been coasting through life expecting everyone else to take care of me. Mom and Dad always did. Then grandmother. Then you. I never had to be responsible because someone always caught me when I fell. Brandon saw that weakness and exploited it. He made me feel like he was the only one who truly understood me, who did not judge me. And in return, I let him turn me against the one person who actually cared about me. I reached across the table and took her hand. He is a con artist. That is what they do. They find vulnerabilities and exploit them. But I let him. I chose to believe his lies because they were more comfortable than the truth. We sat in silence for a moment, holding hands like we had when we were children. The house is yours, I said. Not his. Not as part of some manipulation. But because you are my sister, and you need a place to live. Christina, no. After everything I have done. After everything we have both done. I should have talked to you before sending the eviction notice. I was so hurt, so angry, that I wanted to hurt you back. That was wrong. You had every right to be angry. Maybe. But I went about it the wrong way. I let my pride override my judgment. Valerie wiped her eyes. So where does that leave us? I do not know. We need to rebuild trust. Set boundaries. Figure out how to be sisters again instead of adversaries. Can we do that? I think we have to try. The next morning, Jerome came by with papers for Valerie to sign. A formal lease agreement, reasonable rent, clear terms about maintenance and responsibilities. This makes it official, he said. The house remains in Christina's name, but you have a legal right to live here for as long as you honor the lease. No more gray areas. No more room for someone to manipulate the situation. Valerie signed without hesitation. What about Brandon? What is he facing? Multiple charges: forgery, harassment, stalking, attempted assault with a deadly weapon. His lawyer is trying to negotiate a plea deal, but the district attorney is not interested. They want to make an example of him. Good, Valerie said firmly. After Jerome left, I walked through the house one more time. It looked different now. Not like a prize to be won or a weapon to be used, but just what it had always been. A house, 4 walls and a roof. A place where someone could build a life if they chose to. I need to get back to work, I told Valerie. Patricia has been understanding, but I have projects that are falling behind. Thank you, Valerie said. For everything. For not giving up on me even when I gave you every reason to. We are sisters. That means something, even when it is hard. I drove back to my apartment feeling lighter than I had in weeks. The situation was not perfect. Valerie and I still had a lot to work through. Brandon's trial would be long and probably painful. But for the first time since the wedding invitation arrived, I felt like I could breathe. My phone buzzed. A text from Patricia. Police called. Said you are safe. Take the rest of the week off. You have earned it. I took Patricia's advice and spent the rest of the week putting my life back together. I changed my locks, even though Brandon was in custody. I updated my security settings on everything. I went through my apartment and removed any traces of the violation I had felt when someone broke in. On Thursday, Valerie called. I have been packing Brandon's things. Found something you need to see. I drove over to find her sitting on the bedroom floor, surrounded by boxes. She handed me a notebook. He kept records, she said, of everything. I flipped through the pages. Brandon had documented his entire plan in meticulous detail. When he had first learned about the house, how he had researched my grandmother's estate, the moment he had decided to pursue Valerie. Each step of his manipulation was there in black and white. He wrote about me like I was a target, Valerie said quietly, like the whole relationship was a business transaction. Did you love him? I asked. She thought about it. I thought I did. But reading this, I realize I loved the person he pretended to be. The real Brandon is someone I never knew at all. I am sorry. Do not be. You tried to warn me. Not directly, but I felt your hesitation when I announced the engagement. I ignored it because I wanted the fairy tale. She pulled out another document from one of the boxes. I also found this. It is a list of other women he dated before me. I looked them up. 3 of them inherited property from family members. 2 of them signed over partial ownership to him during their relationships. My stomach turned. He has done this before. Multiple times. He finds women who have something he wants, charms them, isolates them from their families, then manipulates them into giving up their assets. I was just the latest mark. We need to give this to the police. Already did. Officer Williams said it will strengthen the case significantly, show a pattern of predatory behavior. I sat down next to her on the floor. How are you holding up? Honestly, I am angry. At him for manipulating me, at myself for being so blind, at the whole situation. But I am also relieved. If you had not pushed back, if you had not sent that eviction notice, I might have spent years with him, might have let him slowly take everything. So the eviction was a good thing? She laughed bitterly. The eviction was the worst thing that ever happened to me. It forced me to see who he really was. Otherwise, I might never have known until it was too late. We spent the afternoon going through the rest of Brandon's belongings, documenting everything that might be useful for the case. It was strange, bonding with my sister over evidence against her husband. But it also felt right, like we were on the same side for the first time in years. The trial happened faster than expected. Brandon's lawyer tried to suppress the notebook, claiming it was creative writing, not evidence of intent. The judge disagreed. Combined with Valerie's testimony, the harassment evidence, and the testimonies from his previous victims who came forward, the case was overwhelming. Brandon was sentenced to 8 years for forgery, stalking, attempted assault, and a pattern of predatory behavior against multiple women. His pharmaceutical company fired him immediately. His professional reputation was destroyed. I sat in the courtroom for the sentencing, watching his face as the judge read the verdict. The charming mask he had worn so effectively was gone, replaced by raw fury and disbelief. He had genuinely thought he would win, had believed his manipulation skills would carry him through. When his eyes met mine across the courtroom, I saw the moment he realized the truth. I had not been intimidated. I had not backed down. I had played by the rules and won. As they led him away in handcuffs, he shouted something at Valerie. The guards silenced him, but I caught the words. "You will regret this." "No," Valerie whispered beside me. "I will not." Valerie's life slowly stabilized in the months that followed. She found work at a local art gallery, something she had always wanted to do, but Brandon had discouraged. She started therapy to work through the manipulation and abuse. She made new friends who had no connection to Brandon or his schemes. And gradually, carefully, she and I rebuilt our relationship. Not as it had been before, when I enabled her and she took advantage, but as equals, as adults who respected each other's boundaries, as sisters who had been through fire and survived. Brandon's sentence became a cautionary tale. The women he had victimized before Valerie joined a support group. Several of them pursued legal action to recover assets they had signed over. The pharmaceutical company revised their background check policies. And I received a formal apology from my mother, who finally understood what Brandon had done to both her daughters. Months after the sentencing, I stood in the doorway of the house my grandmother had left me, watching Valerie paint the living room a warm golden color. She caught me watching and smiled. "What?" she asked. "Just thinking," I said, "about how everything that happened led us here." "Do you regret it? The eviction notice, all of it?" I considered the question carefully. The eviction had set everything in motion. It had exposed Brandon's true nature, saved Valerie from years of manipulation, and forced both of us to confront hard truths about ourselves and our relationship. "No," I said finally. "I do not regret it. Not the eviction, not the confrontation, not even the danger, because it had led to truth. And truth, however painful, was always better than a comfortable lie. I had learned that revenge and justice were not always the same thing, but sometimes they aligned perfectly. I had learned that setting boundaries was not cruelty, but necessity. And I had learned that the people who love you do not ask you to diminish yourself to make them comfortable. As I drove home that evening, I thought about the woman I had been when that wedding invitation arrived. She had been so desperate to avoid conflict, so willing to sacrifice herself to keep the peace. She would have never sent that eviction notice, would have swallowed her hurt and pretended everything was fine. I was glad I was not her anymore. The journey to revenge had changed me into someone stronger, someone who knew her worth, someone who refused to be erased from her own story.